Hello fellow crafters and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't seen the first live stream ever video, in there my husband and I showcased the forest terrain that we made up for our most recent part of our campaign. This video focuses solely on how I went about painting those pieces. So if you liked the way they looked painted, watch this video. In terms of how those pieces were formed and shaped, watch Black Magic Craft. My husband used his techniques for creating those outside of the sloped cut that he came up with that night while he was making them. So if I can convince him, I'll try and have him do a quick video of that. But otherwise, painting techniques here. As for actually getting the forms cut out and shaped, check out Black Magic Crafts. I'll put a link below as well. Thanks very much for watching.
For the sake of time, I painted all the terrain pieces in a half and half mix of Mod Podge and Granite Gray from Craftsmart. The next thing I did was took an old terry cloth washcloth. Keyword is old. Please make sure this is not something someone else wants to keep around the house. Basically, you cut off a little squarish rectangle shape and you gather up the material. And what you're going to do is you're going to use the black paint. It can be any black acrylic paint. And you're going to start blotting the paint on using that terry cloth fabric. So you kind of gather this up and you make it look almost like a little dumpling, just like that. And it helps to kind of just pat it to make sure it has a nice form to it. And then dip it into the paint and blot it off on the paper plate to make sure it's not overloaded. And then you start blotting it onto your piece. Alright, so just blot around. And in this case, you want to make sure you're just blotting where essentially the floor of your terrain is going to be. Don't go onto the sides where the stone details are. It's just the floor that you're going to blot away with the black. And you just want to get a nice even-ish coverage. You don't want to completely cover it. So that gives you a good example. So you want that type of look. Alright, you're done there. See, nothing on the stone. Floor is covered all with the black paint. Now you're going to move on to the dark brown from Craftsmart, or the chocolate brown I should say. Using the same plate and the same terry cloth dumpling, do the same thing. Blot, and then start putting the chocolate brown onto your terrain piece. And really any dark brown is going to work for this. And it's the same thing. Blot only where the floor is. Don't go around to the stonework. That will be addressed soon enough. So keep going, get the whole piece done of the floor area. And then you will move on to using the Folk Art Thicket green. It's this beautiful emerald green color, and it's the same thing again. Blot around the floor area. Even-ish coverage, so it's something like that. And it kind of gets a camouflage look at this point. Now in this stage, you're going to take the black and the dark brown and blend the two colors together. And what I do is I go to the rock areas and I paint into the craggy pieces. So that way it gives it a little bit more depth. So where it indents in, you take the blend of black and dark brown together and paint it in. Do it around the whole area of the stonework. Now that it's dry, you're going to go back with the dark brown, just the dark brown, and paint over the rest of the stone area along the edges, both sides. Don't forget your sides. Now we're going to phase into doing a black wash, and this is a very thin black wash. The purpose is to get it into those little grooves and nooks and crannies that are present on your terrain piece from the way you've cut them. So go around the entire piece. I've kind of accelerated it through here so you get an idea of what's going on. But this is the only time you are going to be doing a black wash with this approach to painting the terrain. And then it's nice and dry overnight. See, wardrobe change. You're going to move down to your light brown, or in this case it's Craftsmart brown. And you're going to do the dumpling trick again. Same story as before with the three darker colors. You're going to take that towel and blot around. Now the nice thing is with the lighter brown, it shows up a lot faster, so you don't have to be as heavy-handed. And it starts adding a different depth to the piece itself. And then while you're waiting for this to dry, you're actually going to switch over to working on the stonework. And in this case, you want to get Craft Smart Suede. And using the same paper towel, or not paper towel, paper plate, you're going to dip into the suede and the brown at the same time. And this is a technique that I do. I pull the colors on at the same time using the same brush. You don't blend it together because then you get this nice streaking detail that as you work on it blends into itself, so you get a more stone-like effect. And again, those colors are the Craft Smart Suede and brown. So it's a mid-tone brown and a light taupe in the suede. And by doing the dual tone on the chiseled or the slanted paintbrush, you get this great stone look as it pulls together. And then you're going to dip back into doing just the brown, and that's where I'm going to go back into those dips in the crags of the stonework. And you want to go into each of those dipped in places with just the brown to start bringing up that tone a little bit rather than having it just sit as the dark center. Once that's done, you go back to the suede and you use the suede to highlight with a nice dry brush. And you go through and you blend it. You want to highlight your higher points, so the outer points of your rock, the edging where it meets the floor area. And as you can see, it definitely adds another depth to the edge work as it gets done. And you want to make sure you give that time to dry. And then what you're going to hop over to is the olive green from Craft Smart. And this you're going to use the dumpling towel to blot on, and you'll also work it around the floor area as well. But here's where things change a little bit. You'll do the floor first, but then you'll jump over to using the paintbrush to sort of blend that tone into where the stonework is. And what I did is I put it strictly where the beveled edge of the stone is on our particular pieces of terrain. If you didn't bevel the edges like we have, then you just want to keep the green towards the upper portion of your stone edging. And that kind of gives it the mossy look where the forest floor is meeting the stone. And I do it around the whole edge of the piece. And then I will also go back and use the olive green to act as a highlighter with a dry brush technique. And I'll do the edges on the floor to bring out, again, the nooks and crannies that the black wash initially sank into. This you're going to show the higher points by doing the dry brush with the olive green. And once it's set and ready to dry, then you are all set. Finish however you choose to. You of course could seal it, you could use Mod Podge, whatever you decide to do, but that's how I paint the forest floors for our terrain pieces.
Okay, earwig time. It's a rainy day, and it's a Monday. That's where my brain went, sorry. There's no flocking. Kids, no flocking, it's not gonna happen, no. No flocking way. No. No.